talks where medicine meets meaning and science dances with the soul. I'm your host, Saima, and today's guest, Dr. James Kneller, isn't just a leading cardiologist and psychologist. He's a visionary who bridging the gap between clinical precision and spiritual power. Through decades of treating hurts physically, he's come to understand a deeper truth that healing doesn't just happen in hospitals, it begins within. From launching the Natural Cardiology Institute to publishing transformative insights with Mark Victor Hansen, James is here to show us how spiritual practice can become the engine of personal growth and fearless living. So, James, once more, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Simon. Thank you so much for having me. It's really an honor to be here.
You're warmly welcome, James. It's my pleasure to have you here.
Yeah, that's a great topic and such a great commitment for your channel to explore these ideas. They're so important, and sadly, I think conventional medical practice largely ignores these things. There, there,
Yes,
there is
yes.
certainly there certainly is a place for the empirical, and we need to always keep the empirical viewpoint in mind, and that kind of anchors us. But to say that that's all that exists and that's all that's important, I think is doing our patients a disservice. And we need to appreciate the spiritual aspects of the human body and psyche, and try to bring that into healing. Even within conventional Western medicine, which is something that I'm personally excited about and committed to in my own practice. And that's a reason for launching the Natural Cardiology Institute, which I formed with my wife, and we're excited to offer an alternative approach to cardiovascular disease through that platform to help folks integrate natural remedies as well as appropriate spiritual practices to benefit their heart health.
Absolutely, that's noteworthy, James. So James, like you've spent your life studying from the heart, from a medical lens. So I'm really curious to know that how did spirituality begin to influence your view of healing and wellness?
Yeah, I think I came to medicine on a bit of a spiritual quest. Um, I was raised in a conservative Christian background, and faith was always important to me as a child and growing up. And I wanted to. I wrestled a lot with becoming a minister or a preacher or a theologian, but decided that I needed something a little bit more practical and chose the path of medicine. But it really was with the goal of exploring um, human potential, what really makes people tick, getting inside people, understanding them at a more intimate level for the purposes of appreciating um, the spiritual aspects of our composition and of our health, and how those things can be harnessed and hopefully directed and guided to facilitate healing. So I came to medicine with that curiosity, and then really transitioned from an engineering background to medical school through a bioengineering program, where I first discovered cardiac electrophysiology and the ability of mathematics to reproduce that aspect of our physiology so exquisitely. And that captured my imagination even before starting medical school, and then really charted my course through the medical sciences. And I ended up doing PhD research um, in computational biology, trying to reproduce complex heart rhythms using mathematics that was based on, those aspects of cellular physiology that lend themselves to mathematical modeling. And then having completed that, I needed to do the clinical aspect of that to actually treat patients with heart rhythm disorders. And that's what really guided me through my training into cardiology and then beyond cardiology to cardiac electrophysiology. And I do
Mm.
think that it's in the electrical phenomena within the human body that our spirituality most resides. So
Such a
that was
mhm.
a natural, I think that my choice for electrophysiology came out of my, spiritual curiosity, and for
I
curiosity about
see.
the spiritual potential of individuals.
Hmm. That's really a powerful journey, James. I must say, like starting with faith and seeking practical impact through medicine and letting that curiosity guide your path. It really sets the stage for how layered and personal healing can be.
Yeah, it's been exciting and it's been, incredibly, revealing and rewarding. I was, not disappointed to, um, discover the spiritual aspects, I think, of human physiology and our electrical system and our potential to grow beyond, not only to heal ourselves back to this present reality, but really to go beyond this present reality in the future with, really boundless human potential. And I see that in our physiology, and I would love so much to, share it with my patients, and then anyone else who's interested in will and looking for assistance on their health and spiritual path.
That makes so much sense. Now, like you talk about courage and personal growth through spiritual practice. So, can you share that? What kind of practices do you find truly, you find truly that move the needle, especially for those stuck in fear or uncertainty?
Yes, that's a good question. So many people are limited by their fears, self-limiting concepts, doubt in their ability to heal, doubt in the ability of their body to act younger, or to repair itself, stuck in the prism of their self-concept and really unable to move past that. Spiritually, I read widely. I've read I've read in the Hindu tradition, I've read in the Buddhist tradition. I'm a Christian myself, and I try. I don't not always successful, but I try to read daily from Scripture, from the Bible, both Old Testament and New Testament, and to try to do a chapter a day, and to read that out loud. I think reading out loud is especially important to help us integrate what we're reading. And interestingly, reading out loud is one of the most whole-brained activities that you can do. So when your eyes have to see words on a page, interpret them to make your vocal centers articulate those things and then send them to your brain also to understand those words, you're really recruiting your entire brain in that process. So it's a brain health activity and it's a spiritual search and renewal process for me is to read from the Bible out loud on a near daily basis. But I think so much of the truths that we find that I would find in Scripture are universal and are found in other religions, absolutely. So I would, and I see that lived out in the lives of individuals who adhere to various spiritual practices, and I admire what their spiritual path and their tradition has accomplished for them. So that can be very impressive. But like a good quote from the writing from the words of Christ, for example, is perfect love casts out fear, you know.
Mm.
And if you meditate on what that could mean as the mechanisms of shedding the fear that holds us back, it's really perfecting the reality, the expression of love in our lives and in our thoughts. That is the mechanism to break down the barriers of fear, and those barriers being self-limiting beliefs and the fears, the self-imposed fears that we hold on to that are really holding us back from moving forward. So that would be one example of a scripture that I could share along those lines.
That's incredibly grounding, James. I mean, it's one thing to talk about growth in theory, but hearing how those practices actually shift someone's inner state makes it even more real. Thank you for sharing that perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've learned so much from the Hindu tradition, especially in terms of the system of human chakras and how the Hindu tradition, for example, expects those chakras to behave, and then understanding the physiologic, which sparks your curiosity to then pursue the physiologic basis for our chakra system. So the human seven centers of energy, if you like, go up from the that go up the spinal column, from the tip of our spine right to the top of our head and beyond, a system of seven energy centers, and how those can work together and need to work together and to remain clear for our own energy to be unleashed within our bodies, but then also the receptive potential for those centers to collect information from outside of us where we can intuit and also learn and grow as a result of the information that we can receive via our seven chakras, that we would probably not receive if we weren't aware that that was possible for us. So that's been very powerful for me to first understand the concept of chakras, and then to realize that each of those seven energy centers, if you will, are really a nerve plexus that's paired with a major gland. And that collection of that nerve plexus, if you like, it's like a mini brain because it's dense nervous electrical activity that can be influenced by frequency information. So we now know and can appreciate, thanks to quantum science, that we live immersed in quantum energy fields. They're all around us, and they're informationally dense. So there's a tremendous amount of information that's coursing through our bodies on a quantum level. And we can think of our seven energy centers, these mini minds within the body, as being a
Mhm.
transduction mechanism for us to capture some of that information in a way that can be useful for us. And then when each of those
That's
energy
good
centers
to
is
know.
paired with a major gland, that then allows for influences hormonal release and hormonal modulation that helps to integrate, I think, that truth and those expressions deep into our physiology.
Hmm. That makes so much sense, Shams. Now, and that was indeed powerful. Now, like as a cardiologist, you have seen stress and lifestyle wreak havoc on the heart. So, how do you see spiritual disconnection playing into physical disease?
Yeah, spiritual disconnection leading into disease. Absolutely. People lose their way, they become ungrounded, and that allows for stress and worry to overtake us. We lose the balance in our lives, and that absolutely is a mechanism of heart disease. We see blood pressure dysregulation, which is a major killer. And actually, it's something that has been increasing over the past decades in terms of the amount of deaths that result from hypertensive heart disease. And I think in ways that mirrors the spiritual disconnect in our world that has, I think, been increasing overall during those decades as well. And also coronary artery disease, build up injury within the arteries, which leads to the deposition of plaques, which then grow and perpetuate themselves, eventually obstructing the arteries, causing heart attacks. I think all of this is fueled by the spiritual disconnect that um, so many people experience, that is so prevalent in the West. And then as the West spreads its philosophies, diet, and styles around the world, we see other countries incorporating those Western practices and starting to experience some of the disease that goes along with it. So I believe, as a way to prevent cardiovascular disease, heal from cardiovascular disease, a robust spiritual practice is absolutely essential. Hard to recommend to people because they're closed, and in the office environment, we can't, not supposed to, go down those paths, and you never quite know where the patient in front of you is coming from themselves. But I do believe it is very important, and hopefully individuals listening to this podcast can hear it from me and understand that it's important to me and that I'm recommending it for them.
Hmm. That's really a profound connection, like you're drawing. How this connection on a deeper level can actually, manifest physically, and it's really eye-opening to hear it framed not just as a medical issue, but as something rooted in how we relate to ourselves and the world. And you articulated that so clearly.
Oh, good. Yeah, it's important, and thank you for that question and for, putting us into that space. It is vitally important. Um, yeah, if you wanted to, to go on about the chakra system, I'm especially, fascinated by the potential for the pineal gland and, the ability of the pineal gland, I think, to transduce quantum information, in ways that other parts of our physiology aren't going to be able to able to accomplish quite as well. Johann Kalman wrote a book that's very meaningful to me, the quantum science of psychedelics, where he paints this picture of our physiology where you have the human cranium, the skull being a round sphere that's densely insulated by the brain matter within that. And then at the very center of that sphere, if you will, of that receiving chamber sits the pineal gland. It's at the geometric center of the brain. And then within the pineal gland, there are calcite crystals with piezoelectric properties that can resonate in response to various vibrational stimuli. So you have the head, the cranium, as this satellite type receiving system, densely insulated to facilitate the reception of subtle signals. And you have people with such heads living on a round planet, where at the center of the planet, there are similar crystals, hexagonal in shape, those ones being iron ore. And it's the planet that is in resonance with frequency signals, with quantum signals that are arriving on our planet from all different levels of the universe. And then how do we as individuals receive those signals into our minds? We receive them because of the resonance that can exist between our brains, and particularly our pineal gland in the center of the brain, with the core of the earth, which is influenced by those very distant levels of the universe and quantum phenomena that is arising in those sites. So, a fascinating potential for the pineal gland to really make us creatures with a transdimensional experience across space and time, and citizens of this universe in ways that I think we've never appreciated. And it was the ancient Egyptians that pointed out, reptiles, for example, will have their pineal gland as a third eye on the surface of their forehead. And then as you move to more complex life forms, from from reptiles to mammals and finally to humans, that third eye moves from the forehead back deep into the brain until you have the pineal gland at the center of the brain. So you have this structure in the center of your brain, which is actually an eye, and eyes are have the apparatus to receive light, which is what your pineal gland is designed to do. But then you ask yourself, what light is possibly existing in the center of your brain, which is a perfectly black space? The ancient Egyptians had the idea that we needed that eye, that pineal gland in the center of our brains, to look down our spinal column at the photons of light that were arising upwards from our chakra system. And who would be the largest contributor of that photon energy, being the most electrically dense organ in your body, and especially within the chakra system, and that is your heart. So your heart, through its dense electrical activity, 5,000 times stronger than that of the brain, is generating photons of light as part of its biochemical processes that's absolutely necessary. And those are going up the spinal axis to be seen by the pineal third eye, which in humans is in the center of our brains, perfectly positioned to look down the spinal column, which
That
to me is another
defines and
fascinating component of the heart within the chakra system. So it's exciting. And I think it's important to be excited about our physiology once we understand it and we're aware of it, and of our potential as spiritual beings within this universe to interact with the universe in ways that we didn't know we were capable of. And the first tool to unleashing that potential is to understand how and why you're capable of it.
Mm.
And once you can appreciate that you're capable of it, then you can, um, make the changes in your spiritual practice to tap into those possibilities.
That blend of science and soul, like maybe exactly what modern medicine is missing. Now, you have created products like cholesterol free and just beat it, rooted in nature. So, like, what's the spiritual intention behind using food as medicine?
Yeah, thank you. Food is medicine. So I'm very passionate in natural cardiology. And, we load up our patients with all sorts of drugs to lower their cholesterol, to lower their blood pressure. And those pharmaceuticals, they certainly have their place, but they don't heal underlying causes. And I think it's really natural substances that are found in nature and plant medicine that can bring fundamental healing within the cardiovascular system, which can then reduce our dependence on pharmaceuticals and to help us to live longer. So, through the Natural Cardiology Institute, we have formulated cholesterol free, which is a combination of products with 50 natural ingredients to treat cholesterol and to lower cholesterol levels while making the cholesterol molecules healthier and the entire cardiovascular system healthier. So the cholesterol levels come down, the cholesterol becomes healthier, it's less likely to form cardiovascular disease. The arteries also are able to heal themselves in ways they couldn't before, and that helps to offset the process of atherosclerosis and hopefully even reverse coronary artery disease. And we need natural substances to do that because we've learned after 30 years that the pharmaceutical drugs are not accomplishing that for us. And really, there are so many natural products out there, and there is so much good scientific research that is available on our NIH website describing the benefits of those natural products for blood pressure, for cholesterol, for heart health, but they never find their way into clinical practice. The research is sitting there and it's waiting for us to take advantage of it, but it doesn't work its way into the medical conversation, sadly. So the products that we've created, the Just Beat It, um, for blood pressure and cholesterol free to lower cholesterol, are just bringing together combinations of well researched natural ingredients to heal the heart naturally, allow patients to find freedom from pharmaceutical drugs. And by returning the heart to a more natural state, we're hoping to enhance the spiritual aspects of that individual's development and healing as well. So we're excited
Mm.
about the product line and so many natural ingredients, well researched, brought together in ways that are delicious and easy to take. We have a bone broth powder, which is delicious to drink, medicinal gummies, which you can chew like candies, and then a few capsules that need to be swallowed like a pill. But in combination, lots of products coming together to really be impactful on the heart, and I think that are commensurate to the level of disease that I see in my practice. We see very sick hearts and devastating degrees of disease and dysfunction, and I would like a natural product line that has enough entities at sufficient doses to be meaningful to that cohort of patients, beyond people who are otherwise well and just want to be preventative. I mean, all that's great, but the people I see need something much more impactful, and that's what our product lines are designed to deliver. So we're very excited to be launching these things. They're going to be on the stores, available on our website shortly. They'll be available for purchase on Amazon shortly, available to your listeners and folks all over the world. And it really is a dream come true to finally make those available.
It's really beautiful to hear that, how there's more than just science behind what you're creating. There's purpose and care in it, I must say. And framing food as a bridge between the physical and the spiritual really adds, the depth to the idea of healing.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we can't wait to see the impact that it has and begin to make measurements in the population of how it's healing heart disease and lowering blood pressure and reversing coronary blockages, lowering cholesterol levels. It's an exciting time because I've never seen this combination of products offered at one time. You know what I mean? There's a lot of good supplements out there, but they'll contain one or two good ingredients, and another one will contain another one or two great ingredients. And they're great, but it's probably not enough. So someone might feel reassured because they're taking one product and think it's helping them, and it is helping them, but really they need more. And we need to put all of these things in one place for people to get the variety of products that they need. And that's what's so exciting about what we're doing at the Natural Cardiology Institute.
Mm-hmm. That's remarkable. That's noteworthy, Jumps. Now, like, what advice, would you like to give to someone in short who feels disconnected from their health, their spirit, or their courage to begin again?
Yeah, it's so hard. It's so hard. I've been in those dark places myself when you just feel discouraged and you're in a bad place, but sometimes you're so discouraged that you just don't care. And your first prayer is, for the Lord to make you care again. Please make me interested in my spiritual health and well-being once again, because I have lost it and I don't know where to find it. So if we if we are so lost and discouraged that we don't even know where to begin, or we don't even have the courage to begin, or we don't have the will to begin, the first prayer is to God to give you that desire. Make this important to me again. Make my self care important to me again. So that's a great place to start. I really believe in just reading scripture out loud. It doesn't, for me, that's the Bible. For other people, it's their scriptures. But I think of the importance of reading these things out loud. These are the religious writings are just timeless truth that is multidimensional, and you can read the same story, the same passages over and over again. And when you read them at different times in your life and different contexts in your life, they're going to speak to you in different ways because it's multidimensional truth that's been boiled down into a small number of verses or into a story that's going to speak to you again and again and again. So the key is to be repetitive. Just open and just start reading. And it's amazing what those texts are going to speak to you and how they're going to guide you back into a path of truth and help you to, again, sense what's truly important and significant versus what's not. So I would say my tip would be just start reading. And if you're capable of it, read out loud. You don't have to sound good, you won't sound articulate, you kind of trip over the words, but making the decision to read out loud is just so powerful. And it's a different way for those words to resonate within your physiology. Because now you're speaking them, and rather than just being a concept, there's a vibrational element. And I think that truth that's in those verses, that it now has a new way of coursing through our bodies or vibrating within our bodies, which I think helps our cells and our entire physiology latch onto the truth.
That reminder, that's the essence of hope, I must say. And Dr. Knelle, thank you for reminding us that healing is both a science and a sacred act. And to every listener out there, your courage lives in your heart and your heart is listening. So start small, sit in stillness and let the spirit speak. Until next time on Soul Sparks with Saima, keep tending to your inner fire and let it light your way forward.